dialed in to Bucks and Brews, you might hear something you can use. Like tips on your cash or tips on the suds. You're gonna want to use the smarts of these studs. Cause they know the brews, and they know the Bucks, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks. So listen up, cause shit's not funny. And save yourself some beer money. Bucks and Brews.
Bucks and
Bucks and Brews.
Bucks and Brews.
Welcome back to Bucks and Brews. Nick, we have a fun one tonight, don't we?
We do. I'm really excited.
All right. Do you want to introduce it or you want to talk beer first?
No, let's talk beer first.
All right. You go.
Say from Dewclaw, I have a sour me, passion fruit, mango, and guava, which we know was this year's summer hit guava.
Yes.
I have a Kentucky vanilla barrel cream ale.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. And then I have a pumpkin ale from, I don't know, a company, and say pumpkin with some spices added. And the one I'm really, really excited about, from Southern Tier Warlock, it's an Imperial Pumpkin Stout.
That sounds awesome.
I'll be saving that for last. It's gonna be a great beer.
So I'm back to the O'Fallon salted caramel pumpkin
There you go.
because I do love that. And then after that, I'm back to Pigeon Hill salted caramel porter. And then I got a couple nons with me. Mike, what you got?
Not sure which one I'll start with first, but I was doing a little shopping, and so I've got a Rogue Brewery. It's called Raspberry Tartlandia, which is a raspberry, coriander, hand harvested salt, basically sour. So what that one looks like. And then also something I got from Dewclaw. It's called Pastryarchy Irish Cream Dessert Stout.
Yeah,
That sounds delicious.
I seen that. I was gonna grab that, but I was like, nah, just the 40 night. We're gonna be doing a lot of drinking here in the next couple days.
Yeah, our livers are not going to like us on the boat.
Yeah.
So we have a special
A
guest
full
tonight.
pack of this, Nick. So maybe next time I head up that way, I'll have one for you.
Thanks.
So we have a special guest tonight. Nick had put out the question, hey, who owns a food truck? And we had a few people reach out, and one of them is Tom over here. Tom, what are you drinking?
See ya. I'm going to be bringing to the table Diet Pepsi. It comes in a 20 ounce, and it can be room temperature or refrigerated.
Chilled.
Never frozen.
That's-
So that's going to be my cocktail tonight.
That's excellent.
Plushies are yummy.
They are yummy. Before we get into specifics on the show, I got a couple things. Nick, we had somebody come into break room therapy this weekend.
Yeah.
And they brought some bottles to break. Do you want to know what brewery they brought bottles from?
Euclaris.
Ooh, really?
They did.
Wow, they're a Nick.
They well, he's originally from Wisconsin.
Sure.
He's in the service.
Okay.
And of course you can't take him back here. So he brought him into break. And then I asked him the worst question in the world. Does that mean you're a Packer fan?
Did he say
He goes, I sure am. And I went, I'm so sorry.
Oh, say
No.
yeah. We just don't allow Packer fans.
No.
So
Nick and I don't agree on football, but that is the one thing we agree on. We hate the Packers. He's a Lions fan. I'm a Bears fan.
I'm even the same way. I hate the Packers.
Yeah.
And I'm a 49ers fan.
oh,
And we hate the Cowboys.
Everybody hates the Cowboys.
Nobody likes the Cowboys.
So I thought of you when he came in with the new Glarus. He had 4 or 5 different beers.
See the variety pack.
Yeah, he did. It was pretty cool. So I saw this graphic earlier with Katie Porter, just to call back to last week's episode on inflation. And she was, grilling people as she does in front of Congress. And she asked if this guy knew what the number one driver for inflation was, right now. And it seems that 54% of inflation is being driven by corporate greed.
Let's say 30% the housing market.
Yeah.
So, literally, that means corporate greed is the highest up there. I mean, you
Yeah.
talk about the highest amount of revenue for oil companies. I mean, you look at large corporations that are out there, and they're just excited that they're making more money. And they're not giving out more.
No, they're not.
We talk about that.
Is
way
there a
too often.
portion of the housing market that also falls within the corporate greed? Since we know a lot of the increased prices are the companies buying up the properties so they can either hold them and sell them later or rent them or whatever?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question. I saw about 3 minutes of Katie Porter yelling at a guy, so
Always
so,
fun when she yells at them.
it is. She's really good. She had the board and everything.
I'd like to do a real estate thing because, I mean, just I'm not gonna lie, like I shit my pants because I'm already seeing a huge change. I mean,
Yeah,
you can ask for concessions, you can do all the things I was teaching people, like what you
Right.
should be doing.
you can't do that right now.
You can now. I mean, like,
Oh, is
So-
it better?
oh my gosh, dude, like houses are sitting on the market for, what used to be 4 days on the market. Now it's like already up to 30.
Yeah, I could see that because they're not doing the bidding wars that they were.
Like overpayments, not a thing.
Yeah.
Actually, you can go in and walk for a 6% seller concession, FHA. But again, we'll do a
Whole episode.
yeah, like
Hey, maybe
because-
in a handful of weeks, your neighbor will actually put a reasonable price on that house that they wanted to sell. for.
I'll offer him 200,000 right now.
it's like, I don't even know if I would at this moment, but so I'm looking forward to see where it's going to head.
So before we get too winded with our normal bullshit,
Oh,
Tom, we get off topic a lot, just so you know, but
Hey, that's my thing.
please introduce your business because I want to hear about this.
So I'm Tom Gottschalk. I represent Collar Brass Solutions. Our specialty is currently a food truck business, and we operate out of West Michigan, and that's in Grand Rapids. And then we also will navigate throughout the state, selling our wares and basically exploring how we can please the world with our food.
You ever get down my way?
Yeah, we get as far out. Well, I've been to Fort Wayne, so we start towards your
Okay,
way.
well,
that's way
Uh,
past where I'm at.
But that would be a special occasion. Truly in the food truck business, I think everybody's got a circle of influence. And I would say with our fleet, given its age, it's about 45 miles. So
Okay.
you possibly would see my truck in your neck of the woods, but it would be by chance, and it would be a very good opportunity for us. to
Probably
get
be
out
more apt if I headed toward like Kalamazoo or whatever, maybe if
Yeah.
it was like a festival or
Yeah.
something that was bringing food
Yeah,
trucks
I
in.
was over in Adrian for a special event with paralyzed veterans and, obviously cutting through your neck of the woods to get there. But yeah, that's where we're at. The fleet is really the driving force. How far can it go and
Mhm.
kind of maintain profit margins?
So how many trucks do you have?
We own 3. We have registrations on 3. They all expire on my birthday. And 2 are operational and 1 is being, I guess, created. It's been fabricated. We did cut a side hole in it. It's going to be a food truck, whether it's with me or not.
Right.
there you go.
Once you put the hole in the side of the truck, it does not have a good delivery potential anymore.
So, and Nick and I already obviously know the answer to this, but I want to ask. So are they the same food or are
No.
we different food?
No, so my brand, Collar Brass Solutions, represents 3 trucks. Those 3 trucks will deliver different food, but be licensed to provide both menus. When I set up this company in the beginning, I thought there'd be a holding company, and then we would deliver multiple services. One would be food truck, another one would be educational track, maybe a technology track. And so our food trucks deliver a fast food menu, a Reuben menu, and then also gourmet grilled cheese sandwiches.
Oh, I like the Reuben menu idea.
Oh, it's way out of price right now. I mean, with the price of meat, no
Yeah.
one's really volunteering to pay the cost of it, but
Oh,
it
yeah.
is approved, and we do have some pretty neat ideas on how we present it.
Yeah.
It's on it. I don't know. I still am like, it's not a Reuben unless it's like corned beef with the Swiss cheese,
Sure.
with like the Thousand Island or Russian dressing, with sauerkraut on a marble rye.
Yeah, so
Anything
we'll
like that,
do,
it's just, it's not a Reuben.
yeah, we'll do actually the California. We got a spin on a pastrami one, and then of course
Pastrami would be
corned beef
Fine.
is
That's basically
smoked.
just peppered corned beef.
Yeah,
Corned beef is smoked, Mike.
very good too.
See, and again, these are foods from my heritage and I hate all of them.
Beef is so delicious.
Sauerkraut or not your?
I
jam?
hate, I don't like sauerkraut. My grandmother loved to make it. She was
Okay.
Polish.
Yeah.
I don't like corned beef. I'm Irish. And the Persian part of me hates all Persian food. I just think it's disgusting.
Rejection.
Corned beef is, I mean, it's
Rejection.
smoked because that's how you cook it, because
Yeah.
it's always traditionally been kind of pickled and then smoked, and then now they don't do the more, I'm not really a pickling, like a curing with like, because you can get like saltpeter and stuff like that.
Well, Nick said he tried all 3 sandwiches, the grilled cheese one.
Yeah. Yep.
So what do you have with the grilled cheese one?
So there's 5 sandwiches that are
Oh.
recognized by our customers. We present typically 3 of the 5,
Mhm.
depending on the venue. But we have sweet, savory choices, and then of course the traditional. The traditional is the most popular still. It's a 4 cheese blend on a dedicated bread, and then we also have what we call our spicy, which is just a little bit spicy. It's a tad spicy with pepper jack, and then guacamole, Roma tomatoes on a dedicated bread. And then you pivot over to what we call our savory. The savory, you'll see presented with a goat cheese, then pesto, and then of course that's melted on a dedicated bread with Roma tomatoes as well.
That sounds delicious.
That one
Special is very
was.
cool. It comes with an apple and an apple on it, and it's pretty slick when we put it with the right combination. And then we have what's called the sweet, and the sweet is basically Nutella. Here's the secret ingredient:
Yeah.
brie cheese,
There you go. Yeah.
the cinnamon bread.
That
and,
actually kinda
that's a
works.
fun one.
And
Yeah.
you guys, so
You don't do
guys
you don't do an
something
Elvis
fun.
or anything like that?
Yeah, you know, I
Yeah.
leave that to the burger people.
Yeah.
What
Those beef guys can kill it with that kind of combination.
so I think on my side, right, I had like some type of a chip, a
Yeah.
basic chip, and then I had 2 brownie bites, which were just amazing. Which I know you don't make, right? But like
Yeah.
everybody loves those brownie
Yeah.
bites.
The best is when someone goes, "Oh yeah, these were at Sam's Club," and they're like, "And I'm glad they're there."
Yeah.
But yeah, we
Um,
do a chip trio, and that is a pleasant surprise. No one else is doing anything like that, where you can say, "Hey, I like this chip, but I don't like this one," but there's still a third choice.
yeah.
We had a soup and grilled cheese place in town for a while.
Yeah, in Granville.
Yeah, and my wife and daughter absolutely loved it. So
Dedicated.
this is right up their alley.
Was it Zoop?
No,
Tom and Chi.
yeah, that was it. Tom
National
Chi.
chain, yeah. that's a
Yeah.
big one.
And this would be right up their alley. So I'm gonna have to find out where the cheese grilled cheese
Look us
is.
up. Yep, just look us up on the social
I will
media,
absolutely
and,
be doing that because I know the 2 of them will go nuts for it.
My wife does every time.
That's what we do on that truck.
You're welcome.
Nice.
I think I've bought you a house. No. Okay. And then no, say actually, we talked about how far you'll travel.
Do you run year round?
No, I'm old.
I don't blame you for that.
And my team has a tolerance for heat and not a high tolerance for cold. So this particular operation will shut down sooner than later, but we ran till December 17th. We did a concert at the intersection.
Okay.
We were dedicated to the band that was playing that night for a holiday special. And that was December 17th. And I remember it vividly. It was very cold, and we're in a tin can that evacuates any heat that builds up. And I do not want to see December 17th this year.
Yeah.
But invitations come in, and that's the hard part.
It is. You have to at some point say no.
It's
Dude,
just
we're-
like
we're gonna
not
get the
gonna
Dan
do it,
band
you know,
to- We're gonna get the Dan band to come back. and
I
we're
would
gonna get them
love
to-
that. Love the Dan band.
Um,
So my wife being a small business owner, the one thing she learned real quickly was every time you say yes to somebody, you're saying no to yourself.
it's true.
So, and it's tough to do that, but you have to find that happy medium.
So I can vividly see us not being available after December 17th.
sure, there you go. Tom, do you work a full-time job besides this, or is
I
this-
have a lot of hobbies. I retired 2 years ago after leaving tech, and I work as a paramedic. I'm a part-time bus driver. I have a family that I raise, and then I can make money a couple other ways.
We're gonna need to talk even more. So I'm getting to the point of where you are. And my wife wants me to go drive bus because it pays.
Oh, it's
decent.
fantastic.
And she's like, because my biggest thing right now is I just want to be able to drop my kid off and pick her up. One or the other is huge. And then I think part of me, like I just told my wife the other day,
It's awesome.
I actually kind of want to do paramedic stuff, and
Interesting.
because like I'm at that point where I want to go help save people and some of
Sure.
the crap that people are going through, and I'm like, huh.
And in both worlds, you're going to see the world.
And you can do part-time on these things. And I'm like, oh, geez. Like, and I just always assume that I'm going to be, I assume you've seen, Billy Madison.
You're gonna have to.
Adam Sandler with Chris
where
Farley.
he goes back through school.
Yeah, and so then he's got Chris.
So you're
Farley,
gonna be
bus driver.
Farley driving
Yeah.
the bus, eating everybody's lunch.
I'm gonna turn this bus around, you know. And these kids won't get the humor and the joke.
No,
right?
it'll
Like,
be flat. You'll be like, you'll just scare them.
yeah, right. Like, I live in a van down by the
They're
river.
gonna look at you and go, "You are so
Oh,
old,
gosh.
Mr. Nick. You're so old."
Yeah. Like, you know, I don't know. We had this one bus driver. He was the greatest guy in the world, but he was only like a substitute bus driver. He'd only do like a
that's what I
special,
did.
and he'd be like, we'd be like, hey, make sure you hit the curb on the way in. Pop, pop. Like it made it fun, right? It's not your vehicle to destroy.
It's a
No.
hoot, man. If you want to know more about it, I'll tell you. I'm
I really-
special for it.
I really actually am. I'm making myself a note now. Talk more about bus driving.
Yeah, it's a good gig.
So now we just seen today. I think South Haven. You're familiar with the area?
Yeah, I just saw food trucks.
Is it?
coming in.
Yeah,
Yeah, getting some traction.
Yeah,
Throw
my-
some money at it.
my wife sent me a message, an article about South Haven's, voting on year-round food trucks,
Man,
and some people are really mad about this.
they probably think they're just RVs, with toilets off the back.
Right?
Morning, Clark. Shitter's full.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
everyone's got their own little niche, but
Yeah.
it did pop up on Facebook. They thought I'd find it interesting. And
Yeah.
there is some traction being gained about it. It's a unique way of dining, no doubt about it.
Well, and
Um,
I would think, you pointed out how cold it was in there just on December 17th,
Yeah.
which it hasn't gotten typically to the coldest point of the year yet here in Michigan.
Yeah. And so you hit a January or February opportunity. The truck is designed to evacuate any heated gases. So even if you heated it from the bottom up, it's going to get pulled out that hood. And so you're just short of wearing mittens. And the wind starts blowing the wrong way. And you're hearing a lot of people complain.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. I have a hard enough time coaching in the spring and when it starts getting cold and raining.
sorry. I'm
I love how
making
Nick
notes.
writes feverishly.
So
Don't forget
I-
this.
I-
Don't forget this.
I'm already right. I'm already writing. We talked about a little bit past where I'm at. So walk me through, I guess, how do you get started in food truck industry? And I know there's some licensing
Yeah.
that you talked about. Like what does it take to make something like this happen?
So just to keep it in context, my experience is over a period of 2 years. I left the medical industry, full-time education and technology, and pivoted to this business for the sake of thinking it was going to be pretty easy to start. I would say to somebody who's interested in taking the art of their food and putting it into a mobile food environment, or the STFU, or whatever you want to call it, the food trucks, would be to have a lot of cash on hand or have access to a lot of cash. I think it's really easy to underestimate the startup costs and the unknown expenses without experiencing it, without actually having it happen to you and you realize, whoops, that's kind of tough. A tow truck is going to cost you $500. So
Sure.
if you're in the series of 90s, 2000 trucks and that truck breaks down, you literally have to recover that some way or another, or you just have unlimited access to cash. So the way it starts out is you would set a concept up. Hopefully you'd establish some type of business plan, some type of entry level business plan, and then an exit strategy. Once you get that set aside, then you're going to tell the state, the government, that you're interested in starting a food truck business. They're going to look at your blueprints. They're going to look at your plans, your standard operating guidelines, and they're going to give you a quick preview to say, yep, you're on the right track or you're not on the right track. So once that happens, you take that truck, you turn it into a kitchen. And then once you turn that into a kitchen, the state will verify through the county governments that that is a legitimate kitchen. And that's where you get licensed. So
Through the county that your business is in, or through the
Yeah.
county that you live in?
no, it's kind of funny. And this is technically, I would say this off the record, but that's not going to happen here.
It's a-
What you want to do is you want to get into a county that has reasonable expectations of what a food truck kitchen would look like.
Sure,
That's not where I live.
sure.
Okay.
Because sometimes the standard's very steep.
Yep.
And it's kind of hard to maintain for some people.
Mhm.
Again, if you have a situation where you're cash strapped, you're not going to want to add all of this hardware that's maybe required in a county versus another county. So the answer to your question is you can put it legally in any county.
Okay.
you may not feel invited to do so, but the law is clear that they're supposed to let you in.
Sure.
In the beginning, I thought that I was going to move into a certain county and they had maybe more laid back approach to inspection. And I was not welcome. I then pivoted to my own area, realizing that if I hit that standard, then I would be satisfied with everyone else's standards. In other words, we'll just cut it off the list. My city and my county have the strictest policies in our region. If I hit that mark, then I go to this county, this county, this county. No one's going to give me a hard time because I've already broken into all the rules and accomplished most of the standards that are set. But the law is clear. I could be licensed anywhere, and they have no choice but to accept me. But that's really not true how government works anymore.
So I want to ask this because, with my wife being a business owner, we get questions all the time on, hey, this is easy to do, right?
Yeah.
So do you have people come to you and go, food trucks? That's
I've always
just
wanted to
simple,
do
right?
this.
Yeah.
I always wanted to do this, or this is my dream job, or this would be something really fun, or we're going to do this someday. Yeah, it happens all the time. I think with a public facing business in the hospitality industry, all of us can think it's real easy to run a hotel, to run an Uber business or a catering business or whatever it would be in the entertainment world. But the reality is, it's got its own nuance and there's some lessons you're going to learn the hard way. And I witnessed food truck operations from a routine food truck presentation. And I thought, oh, I can make this happen, no problem. 2 years in, I'm just like, boy, I hope everyone else feels the same way because I'd like them to get the same bruises.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's, and you mentioned Uber. I did Uber for a little bit before I had my daughter, and it's fine. You can I can make the money, but when it became about what your rating was and stuff like that, I realized how much I just didn't give a fuck about people.
Sure.
Because no matter what I did, it would never be right, and that was fine with me, right?
Yeah.
Like hey, he didn't offer candy and water, right? And then the other person would be like, oh, he offered only mints, and I don't like the smell of mint. And I'm like, just F it, right? Like, no matter what you do, you'll never please these people. So no, like, I don't know. I've always looked into a food truck. I think part of me. So that's another question for me. Why food trucks versus what I would call like a food cart or like
so in the state that I operate, we have several types of licenses that if you look to the law, it's pretty easy to understand. There's a temporary kitchen license, which means you're probably doing barbecue and you're just going to present it to the public once in a while, and they'll come and inspect you that day and say you can open or close. The next one would be like a weenie wagon or something like that, where you basically get permission to run this food cart, and depending on the city, you can either park it there or not park it there. That's a local issue. But you tell the state, I want to run this hot dog cart, they'll come out and check that out. Then there's two in the food truck business. One is mobile food unit, and then there's STFU, which means sanitary trading food unit or something like that. It sounds gross. And it also sounds funny when you say, STFU.
right. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was gonna go back to it and I didn't write it down, but I was like,
But what
that's
it
how
is,
this
the differentiation is one is allowed to go out for 24 hours and they have to come back,
okay.
clean their dishes, empty out their sinks and all that other stuff. The other one can go out for 4 days. And that's the highest standard, but also the highest workload when it comes to notifying the county and letting them know what you're doing. Again, there's gradients, right? I just want to do something once. I'm a little church and I'm going to do a pancake breakfast. That's a temporary kitchen license, the weenie cart, and then these two food truck levels. When you talk about the mobile or outside food business.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, how do you find gigs? So do people come to you?
Yeah.
Do you go find them?
All of our businesses by invitation. That's how we chose to operate. It's an easy business model to not have to work too hard as far as finding out what's right and then take the burden on if you didn't make a good choice.
Sure.
So everything would be by invitation. There's a few times where, I thought, hey, let's try this out. I asked to be invited and then we were invited to it. So that would be like a retail spot.
Sure.
Where you pull out in front of, let's say, a commercial building. There's a lot of highway traffic or a lot of traffic driving by, and you just hope that you can park and obtain business. And the other ones are always invite. And truly, then it's just using your gut to say, does it make sense? Does it not make sense? And after 2 years, I don't think I'm very good at it yet.
Oh, that's, you know,
I'm
'cause
not
I-
very good at it.
you know, we always like having them, but from the business side, it doesn't always make sense to go to a place, right?
It's
Like,
crushing.
I would assume, right, and this is an assumption, but like we talked about, you went to my daughter's school, and I would have, like, from what I'm told, everybody just makes great money doing those, like,
Yeah.
for food truck wise, right?
Yeah,
And
that's not right though.
Right,
That's
like,
not true. So I would suggest, just like having access to cash, having access to some type of nut where you can kind of pull money from and hopefully someday get it back into it. The same is true for picking and choosing events.
Sure.
If you're invited and the host pays, everybody will always be happy in the end, right?
Sure.
Because you're going to probably set a minimum and it's going to be covering your expenses. And then you hope there's some gravy because they go over their minimum.
Sure.
Where it's a public event, they say, I'd like you to come to my neighborhood.
Good luck.
That's the most fun because you're just like, well, we're just going to take a chance.
Sure.
And hopefully it works out. And many times it does not. Where it really gets a little bit goofy is that hybrid. It's like, we'd like you to come to our city. It's a fireworks night.
Sure.
And then it's like, okay. Then you start doing imaginary math. And it really is imaginary math with a theory behind it.
Mhm.
And that is, we imagine as food truck people, 500 people at a non-eating event will generate maybe 150 to 200 customers.
Oh, well.
Okay. Well, that customer, that venue will say, we want to have 5 trucks.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Now you're fighting for.
Yeah, you're fighting for 30 people.
The numbers are not good. And,
No.
and it's impossible to explain that to somebody. Well, we'd like to have variety. I get it. I completely understand. But you told me you're expecting 75 to 100 people at a soccer field.
Yeah.
And I know that really only
20% of that's
30
coming.
30 people are going to eat.
Yep.
And you would like us there for 4 hours. The operating cost is blank. Materials cost blank. It's really easy to make a bad choice. And I have done that easily too often. And I continue to do it till I realize, okay, where is the recipe? When someone says we expect 2,000, okay, are they right?
Yeah.
What's their source? They went off of pre-COVID numbers, or are they going over an event that last year?
Yep.
Were they itchy to do something in that city? Yeah, so that's how that works. And so if you say, I'm hosting a party, it's a 5-hour all-nighter, and we will prepay for 200. It's like, okay,
Yeah. Well, that's like
you can't lose.
Yeah.
So I'm 34. But I think for my 40th, maybe my 35th, I haven't figured it out yet. But that's kind of what I want to do. I want to
Yeah.
I either want to have my own taco truck or hire a taco truck and just
When
say,
you
hey,
say taco truck,
yeah.
that's like really heart-wrenching to me. I picked the wrong pathway. I always said, we'll never be a taco truck. And I'm just like,
it should have been a
I
taco
wanted to-
truck. Yeah.
taco truck.
I was talking to a lot of my Hispanic friends and talking to and they're all pissed because the prices of tacos. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm the first to admit this. I don't talk bad about companies, but I hate Donkey. Okay, it's this restaurant in Grand Rapids. It's supposed to offer fancy tacos, and they're like $6 a taco, and they're this big. Okay, I am this large of a
Yes.
man.
You want a big
Like,
taco.
I do, and I want meat on it.
Many of them.
I don't want your half of an ounce of something with 2 pieces of lettuce, and when I fold it, I still have air in there, right? Like, so frustration.
I'm gonna say this because our listeners know we're going on a cruise.
We are.
We leave Sunday, and my wife starts looking at menus.
Yeah.
And day 2
Yeah. It's
on the
Mexican.
buffet is Mexican Day.
Yeah.
And Nick, so she's taking a bath when she sees this, and I hear her squeal in the bathroom. I'm like, what the hell is going on in there? She goes, Nick's gonna be so happy.
Yeah.
Tacos on Monday.
And so right, but they're all like, man, what?
Yeah.
I don't know why the prices went up. This didn't go that crazy. And they go, also because it's the new trend. Everybody wants them, so they can get more money for it. And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. But I got what I want to do is just go to a truck and say, hey, how much is it going to cost just to guarantee you to come here, right?
Yep.
Like I'll just pay
And
for
that
it.
is a good word to use. How can I make sure that you won't find a better gig
Yep.
as a customer? How will I make sure you don't go find a better gig between now and
Yep.
blank,
Whatever it
where
is.
you quote broke down or whatever? That's absolutely right. And you can put yourself in their position, you know,
Oh, yeah.
they got a team, they got a family, and you get it. But, you know, someone says, yeah, I'm thinking about this or thinking about this. And then someone says, I have a wedding.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's curious.
But that's what I
I
ate
like
dinner
weddings.
from today, was actually a taco truck.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
'Cause
Um,
at the store where I went to pick up the beer that I bought, they just happened to have a taco truck in their
Yeah.
little thing, and yeah, it was like $60 with like 3 asada street tacos and a couple of tamales, and then I got a Doritos to drink.
Oh, so I mean, that's not horrible. I
Mm.
mean, getting 3 tacos, 2 tamales, and a drink, like I'd say it sucks, but like it's not horrible.
16, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say $3,
Gotcha.
9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I mean, that's not bad. No, okay, so we talked about price real quick. Does your pricing change per event?
Yeah.
It does.
A
Okay.
little bit. I guess you're gonna wanna assess the need and then also assess the expenses of how it is to pull it off. A good example that seems reasonable to everybody, I think if you say it out loud is, yeah, we'd like you to come out for a 40-person party. Well, you do the math, 40 times whatever your plate cost is. It's like, wow, you know, I can't even get to 500.
Right.
If I did it for 15 instead of 12, yeah, we get to that 500 and we start covering hourly expenses. So yes, on the public side, I don't see that happening very often. You might tailor something to get rid of ingredients, but that's just not how we operate.
Sure.
We don't do specials per se. The menu's fixed. And over the last 2 years, we've kind of gotten to, I think, the ceiling of what people are willing to pay on the grilled cheese line. And we're trying to figure it out on the Reuben line and then on the fast food line. I think we've hit the ceiling for that too, where people will say, oh, that's way too much, or they'll be like, okay, I don't like it, but I'm in Nuevo.
It's really hard. I mean, I'm the cheapest person that you don't know that you know. Granted, I told you I bought all 3 grilled cheeses.
Yeah.
And I think I paid 12 a piece. I don't remember. My wife is the influence. If it would have been me, zero chances I'm buying that traditional one for $12. Zero.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, I grew up on craft singles with
Yeah.
the 69.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so I'm like, man, I can make this for 26. But like,
Yeah.
if it's a very nice Gouda and it's got a bunch of other things, like
Yeah.
I will think about. But so we bought it. But no, I mean, I get where you're hitting a ceiling. And this is where you can get
there's
to
also venues where you just know they're going to tolerate it.
for sure.
And I don't want to stereotype any particular customer, but there's times where someone says, yeah, we're having a graduation party. There's going to be a different factor in there because they want you to be there for 4 hours
Sure.
or 5 hours, or they
Sure.
want you to be slow. And and you know, if you're 60 miles away, that's gonna be a lot different than being 12 miles away too.
Well, I gotta assume, you know, if somebody's calling you for a graduation party, it would probably also depend on the place they're graduating from. Like you're graduating from Byron Center, where I'm at, versus Godwin, where we coached at.
You know, what I mean?
A
And-
little different demographic there, a little different money.
Well, we might
Well,
just
like
put it
with,
in
like-
the menu.
Mm-hmm.
With like my word, about every month they'll do a food truck day. The first time they did it, it was kind of our summer picnic, and so it was basically the company paid for it. And basically, as we walked out there, they said, "Here's a ticket. Go to whichever truck you want and get whatever meal you want." And of course, it was each truck, you know, was catered to kind of whatever they were willing to pay per head. But again, like you said, that's one where it's more guaranteed money. Because, you know, if they do, you know, we've got like, 1,200 people in our company. If we're all like that work on the site, if we're all given a ticket to get a meal, even if there's 5 food trucks, they're probably still guaranteed a couple hundred people.
Yeah, so there is
Even if you're the least popular truck.
yeah,
But
there
then they
is,
do it now
some
where you have
numbers
to
can
pay your
factor
own
in.
way. And I
Yeah.
haven't gone down since I started to pay your own way. It has nothing to do with not wanting to get food from a food truck. It has to do with I don't have time in my schedule
Yeah.
to get it, you know, to go down for lunch, potentially wait in line for
Sure.
20
You know,
minutes to get the food that I want and then, you know, go back.
And you'll find that, you know, we went to the first ever world's largest food truck rally in Allegan or whatever it would have been. This is years ago, and now it's like multiple years and things like that. And I tried so many different things because I wasn't standing in the line of the burger line. I wasn't standing, you know, the things that everybody was going to go to.
Sure.
I went and tried these other trucks and I started falling in love with great things. when you kind of walk me through the steps of what it takes to start, you had mentioned one thing that I think in my business especially. So I own real estate. Say David owned, his wife and all that on here. But you had mentioned the word exit strategy, and you said,
Oh, it's gotta be in game.
like,
I had the luxury of already walking through that one time with
Really?
a software company.
okay,
And vividly, I remember the conversation with my business partner and our corporate attorney saying, you have to look at this like it's a child and you will become divorced someday,
Yeah.
or one of you will die, or you will be giving up your child to college. You have to think about that. And so our operating guidelines were very crystal clear, laid out like, what happens if we don't agree? What happens if this? But then also in there was, what happens if one dies, and what happens if one wants to leave or both want to leave it? So how do we take care of this child afterwards?
Yep.
So that guidance, when I started with my business partner, was just ingrained for 17 years. We have to get along. We have to get through this. The business agreement says so.
yeah. And we had a guest on that was specifically about exiting your business and how
Yeah.
to sell it and preparing. But I think people forget about that, right?
Oh,
They only think about the beginning, they only think about the growing aspect, but you forget that it's not like magically your business retires, right? I
No.
mean, if that's what it is, like, hey, I'm just gonna run it, you don't run it to the ground, you just go, hey, I'm not opening today. And things just sit, but then you have a food truck in your case, then you have a food truck just sitting in your driveway for the rest of your life. You have to think about, hey, I have to sell that thing. Sure, I mean, in theory, I guess technically you could go drive it into a spot and let everything sit and then get the tickets for it and do it. But like you have to think about
You
that.
must have a way to know if I broke my leg,
Yeah.
or if they found a tumor on my chest, or whatever the scenario is
Yeah.
gonna be, worst case, best case, we end up with, my theory is I'm gonna have 8 trucks in 7 years. I have to know what exiting looks like and what the valuation on the company would be. And everything that we throw at it has to be with the mindset that this is a child, and what's going to happen after I'm gone. And the team counts on that planning, your family counts on that planning. And it really does settle a lot of disputes that you don't anticipate. If you do kind of picture, we are building something here that will have value in the end. That's the point. It's not a job. And if you don't, it's a job.
Right.
You basically buy a job, and now you have your own boss status. And that's not enough. That is totally not enough to run a company that is successful.
And that's the whole difference is it's a company, right? It's your,
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time, right? People, oh, I'm an investor. Okay. An investor could mean, like, technically my 7-year-old is an investor. She has a bank account that she gets $2 on. Okay. Everybody in theory could be an investor. Now, do you want to be a business owner, or do you want to just be a person that's out there doing this, right?
Right. An employee.
Are you a hobby person, or are you a business owner, right? And don't get me wrong, there's times, I mean, you've admitted to faults and wrongs and things a little bit, like, hey, I misjudged doing this. Like, I went over to one of my apartment complexes just not too long back, and I was like, shit, like, I've been a horrible business owner, right? I'm looking at my common areas, I'm looking at some things, and I'm just going, I have not swept this, I haven't kept this up, like, my tenants haven't seen me, like, and I thought about it, I was like, man, my tenants haven't seen me in a while, and that's not who I want to be, that's not how I started, that's not, and so, like, it kicked myself in the butt, and I said, look, you're a business owner, you're not just a person that owns property, right? Like, so
I want to go back to something that
Yeah.
we talked about a second ago. So as far as something happens to you, what happens to the business? So you run your business. It is not your wife's business.
that is absolutely correct.
You drop dead tomorrow.
Yep.
She sells everything,
Maybe
or she finds somebody to run it for her.
she has the option. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
But gut feeling.
She sells everything.
So with this place,
Yeah.
my wife runs this place. She runs break room therapy. I don't.
Yep.
But I'm here working for free. Something happens to her tomorrow. You think I'm selling?
I think
The right price, yes.
Right.
For the right price, I would. She has a price in her head too.
But I think you'll just hire one of your people a little bit more money to take over her responsibilities.
I would absolutely.
Yeah, and you'll still show up and do what you can.
Yeah.
But
But maybe take a salary.
yeah. I mean,
Well, I'd take Dawn's salary at that
so
point.
just a draw.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You would take
and-
that
and
money.
You have to have that written out. I think that's
Yeah,
huge.
for sure.
You know, it was weird because before I had my kid, it was just whatever, you'll figure this shit out. And then I had
That
my
puts
kid,
it into perspective.
and then my kid got a little older, and I woke up and I was going on a flight. And okay, I used to be the guy who loved turbulence, right? If there was turbulence on a plane, and now my stomach drops, like I want to puke, and like that's not normal. Like I used to be this big thrill seeker. Yes, right. Like, when
Like,
I
oh my
sail,
God, I'm gonna leave my daughter without a dad.
when I sail, I want to be in a storm. And then like I told my wife, I was like, I don't know what the heck happened. Like I hate flying. All of a sudden, she's like,
You
"'Cause
got
you have a kid."
responsible.
And I was like, what? Like, I guess it's a possibility. But before I took off on the one, I wrote an entire page thing, and I was like, this is the steps of everything that's going to happen in my life if I die. If my wife dies, these are the few little things. Call it a day. So
Well, what did we do last year when I tried to die?
we did an episode.
We did an episode and I told Nick, I'm like, if I die, I need you to do this, this, and this. And then I literally tried to die.
So back to the food truck. Now, all right, what makes you choose whether you're going to do a fryer, a smoker, a flat top?
Oh.
I guess choosing what you're going to do.
So I don't have a culinary background. And so literally I have stomped through decision making by just being a little bit ignorant.
Sure.
So in the beginning, I adopted a business that had established a fast food menu, and it was a hustle that was cash fat, meaning it was literally all cash. Every time you went out and made all cash, and you put it into the bank if you felt like it. That's
Sure.
how the other owner was running it, and I have no idea how that happened. But on my side, I inherited that menu, and it was already decided, and I just took that. When we pivoted to the second truck, it was a little bit more calculated. I aligned myself with a friend of mine who was in the EMS industry, who happened to be a vegetarian, and had a desire to kind of tweak some food menus. And so that's how we ended up with the grilled cheese menu. I thought it was gonna be soup and salad. I thought I was gonna go to the end of cul-de-sacs, park that truck on a Wednesday, suck as much money out of all the office buildings with credit cards, and then come back the next week.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought I was gonna do, with soup and salad, and just draw all of the executives out and all of the administrative help and just get $500 to stop. But that's not how it turned out. It turned out with adopting the first truck, this grilled cheese menu concept, and then the Reubens. I just have a passion. I love Reubens. I'm from the East Coast, and that was the closest I could get to an Irish Rover theme,
Mhm.
Oh,
and stay true to myself.
I can't remember. I text my wife.
You need to get a liquor license and sell some Irish stouts with
I
the
hear you. I hear you.
We've had the best Reuben, and I'm drawing a blank of where it was, but it was a smoked Reuben with such amazing sauerkraut. It was a marble rye, and I too am a Reuben fan.
Reuben
just,
as it's supposed to be.
right, I just had one just the other day, right next to Vitelli's in Comstock Park. I can't think of the name
Yep.
of the place, but it was great.
Yeah, you're talking about the place at the corner, right? Next
Yeah.
to Vitale's.
Yep, the green building.
Yeah.
But it was really good. I was really excited for my so we get a lot of Reubens.
Yeah.
Now, all right. So you bought your first truck was actually already just an up and running
It
truck.
was up and running. It was not licensed. It did not have permits or anything like that. It was basically what I would affectionately call a chuck wagon.
Okay.
It was pushing out hot dogs, hamburgers, Polish sausages, and bagged chips, sodas to people who attended estate auctions. So for me, I got to see food prep. I got to see food holding, hot holding, safe delivery of, transporting food. And then that allowed me to get into, okay, well, now how do I get this truck licensed? Because I did not want to operate outside the law, because I don't willfully and knowingly do something wrong. I do a lot of things wrong. And I probably do a lot of things that are unlawful, but I don't knowingly, willfully go, I'm going to, other than speeding. I am reckless when it comes to driving, texting, speeding. I don't know why I have no remorse.
None.
But when it comes to any other business related or family related, I will not go, I'm gonna do this. It's
Yeah.
gonna feel good later.
No, and you have like doing the right thing isn't always the easy thing, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and you have to hold yourself to that high standard. Sure, we texted him. I got pulled over finally for the 60th something time for speeding,
He gets out of almost every
and I
ticket.
finally got a ticket. And then I found out that my ticket was 0 points and just $105.
That's the bullet.
And I was like, that's the stupidest effing thing I've ever had to deal with. Like, you just now wasted my time. I was driving safe. It was nothing, this is open highway. It's whatever. But I was like, man, that's just a money grab, right?
Mhm.
Like, I didn't learn any lesson. And as I'm texting him complaining, I get into my other town that I'm at, and I take a picture of my odometer at 47 and the sign that says 30 miles an hour. And I said, I didn't learn my lesson. It's been 17 minutes, right? Like, I don't care. I'm just so annoyed by it. But so the first one, did you work in it? Now,
Yeah.
did you walk a bunch of trucks first?
So no, that's a really good question. And I would actually encourage anybody exploring this business to either surrender your time and volunteer. That's the cleanest way to get into it. There's no obligation. They don't have to pay you, and you just literally work and support them.
Sure.
I did that for this summer, and I literally was an indentured servant, took care of all of the operations pieces of it. I showed up and I left, and I ultimately started driving the truck on my own time for them. And then I purchased a truck on a September day, and then it was mine.
Okay.
But if anybody wants to get in this business, they got to spend a summer on a food truck to see if there's something there that they don't know anything about, that they want to get vetted. Because it's hot, it smells, your clothes smell, and the list goes on from there why you wouldn't want to do it. But if you do a summer and you still like it, then you know. And that's what I did. I had done that multiple times with multiple certifications, licenses, just kind of walk that road where I basically do in-kind contribution, I call it.
Sure.
Value your time at zero, because really to them it is zero until it's worth something. And as soon as that's worth something, then take over.
Sure.
Yeah.
And did you already have a purchase conversation with them
Yeah.
before you started working?
Yeah, I had the understanding that I probably would buy the truck. They had already set a price. I just put it on a phone, sent it to them as a text message. So it was agreed upon price. And then it's interesting you bring it up. I almost forgot. But yeah, that's how that business started. And it was 12,000, I think.
That's it. Well, it's really cheap for a like.
Yeah, but I put 40,000 into it
Oh
to get it up to.
Yeah, he got it
licensing
up to,
standards.
wow.
Yeah.
Licensing. Okay, so what did that entail? Sorry, now I have to know.
To go from 12,000 to another 40,000.
Yeah.
A lot of hardware, a lot of mechanical, plumbing fixes, installation of a new generator. There's I mean, a food truck right now, if you were to look, is probably 50K to start. A food truck trailer, 35.
Sure.
A new truck, 110.
Yeah.
110,000. Just there you go. Now you're in the business. Welcome. But you may not get licensed in Michigan. Why?
can't
Yeah,
go
because
with
it's
what-
missing something.
Nick had asked, I mean, like I said, I'm guessing your fast food truck is mostly like fryers and
No
grill
fryers.
tops. No
Color
fryers.
Brass solution uses no fryers.
nice.
Why
They're
is that?
hideous to clean,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
to
Yeah,
work around. I
Fryers were
remember as a
horrible when
teenager
we
growing
worked at,
up.
like Wendy's, and they were just stationary.
Yeah, I put a brand new one in Being Cheesy. It
A
is
fryer?
a counter. It
Yeah.
is a countertop because it will never be operated.
You
Okay.
tried fries? Or
I don't want to even try.
You didn't try
I don't
anything?
even dirty it.
Oh.
No, it's
I
a
just
brand
didn't
new fryer.
anticipated maybe that that food truck, that fast food one had already
No,
been.
it does. It
It
does pre-bagged chips, and then we do all the high-end proteins like hot dogs, burgers,
Yeah, and you
Polish
can do all
sausage
those
and
on a
stuff
flat
like
top.
flat top or a charbroiler. Yep.
I just wonder, when you mentioned salad and soup, I mean, it would probably be easier from a overall cooking perspective, because you could have
Yeah.
like a refrigerated unit
That's right.
with all the salad ingredients, and then like your soups could be pre-made with like
Yep.
in like crock pots or whatever you would want to use or whatever.
So the ceiling, the reason we never got to it was the threshold of culinary art skills for making good soups seemed out of reach for me. I didn't have the ability of drawing from my mom's favorite recipes, or grandma had, one that she just was so popular with. I couldn't draw
What
from
would
any
be-
of that.
It would be hard too, because I mean, you get people who are just into like a vegetable, something noodly,
Yeah.
and other people are going to be more apt to be like, I'm more of a cream based
Yeah.
soup person, and
Should have mixed a little of my cream ale with that.
Yeah.
It literally tastes like a pumpkin pie.
Nice.
I'm not mad about this one.
So I know we run into this situation a lot here. There's websites out there that say you can start a rage room for $3,000.
Mm.
And I mean, Mike's seen this since the beginning. If we tried to start this with $3,000, we would have closed 3 days later. Do people come to you and basically say, hey, I hear this is really easy?
Yeah, they do. And again, if you had unlimited cash and you knew that you had a long haul in mind where you didn't have to make that money back, I would say that you're in a much better position than somebody who cares about the business, has a passion for being in the business, and a strong desire to be in the business. There's a big leap there. I started with a church mission in mind, and mine was to serve people who could not get back to work. And they would either have a hardship in their life, drug addiction, homelessness, or some type of issue in their life that made their life very hard. And they would have difficulty finding work. So I knew up front there'd be cash laid out. It would be flushed away for a period of 3 years, with the idea that in 7 years, it would have its own brand recognition for that type of mission. And so I know we're on track for that, because historically now I can look back on 2 years, I have lost half of what I lost the first year.
Sure.
And so I'm going in the right direction after 2 years. And now I just have to be a little bit more careful in my decision-making when it comes to what venues to work, which ones not to work, and who to hire, who not to hire, and those types of things.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's going to be stuff that no one's going to predict. So you have to have either a parachute you can pull from to make it go away, or you just have a tenacity of problem solving skills where you're just like, we don't have a choice. We have to go forward. And then you shoestring it with a million ways of skinning a cat.
Well,
that's a good goal, like you said, to be able to get to the point where once you get the name recognition out there and you're making enough money, just that you can eventually, like I said, go to a place where people are like displaced or
Must
unemployed
have.
or whatever,
Yeah.
and just
Yep.
say like, here, have Rubens on me for the next 5 hours.
Yeah, we really want to serve others through this conduit. I've already done the commercial side of life and hit a retirement threshold that's set. I'm good that way. Now it's like, okay, why am I still here? I still got something else to finish up.
Sure.
That's
That's
like
great.
for what my new adopted daughter has, what kind of made me finally be like, I want to adopt you, is when she was talking about, getting her cosmetology degree so she could go to places like, areas that, may have just been hit by, a disaster, and basically
Wow.
do, free haircuts and
Yeah, her craft.
designs and yeah, and be like, I'm not gonna, if you can pay me, great. If you can't pay me, no big deal.
Thousands of philosophers say that if you're serving others, there's no bigger reward.
Yep.
And I believe it. When you're serving in that manner and you're giving a little bit of you and it's carrying someone a little bit further, I trust that's true.
Good. And I say there's restaurants out there that they don't have a menu, or they don't have a price on their menu. It's pay what you can, and normally it works out better for them. You mentioned that you had a fryer in your truck that you're never going to use.
Counter.
So that brings you're using it as a counter. It's a really expensive counter.
It is a counter. It's polished stainless steel. It looks very nice when it's not being used.
Man, deep fried Oreos is what we're gonna do.
Maybe that's what
Yeah,
Baker's
but I mean,
Mash turned out
fryers
to be.
Oh my gosh, that'd be great. So
Even beyond cleaning them, it's that that oil steam that gets everywhere. That's just like disgusting.
Yeah, it's not my favorite.
how do you design your trucks? I mean, are you laying out like, hey, this is what I want to make, this is what I need here, here, here?
So,
Do you have like a,
the state
test kitchen?
licensing, yeah, the state licensing requires you to outline what you're going to serve, how you're going to deliver that food from raw ingredients to finished product. So you're going to have to blueprint that.
okay,
In our world, we fell into our menus. One I inherited, the other one we designed, and it's satisfactory to the state regulations. And then this third one was, I just have to get something in Irish Rover that's high end rather than low end.
sure.
So that was a practical pivot. Again, not coming from a chef's background, not coming from anybody with any type of taste buds that are sophisticated. We trialed and errored in a small pilot kitchen at home. We did try 25 variations, and then suddenly those were the ones that were going to go live. And so we're to 5 sandwiches now. No proteins on any of the grilled cheese sandwiches, and that just is faithful to what we've done in the past. That'll change someday.
Yeah, ham will be great.
Ham, but you know what? We can even go
Bacon.
further. We can do something that you don't expect to find, and you're just like, huh?
Cool.
So yeah, it could be something different that
Mhm.
you're just like, man, that truck does it different than my grandma did, or does it different than my Aunt Tilly does.
Yep.
And
Alligator turkey.
yeah, you never know. So little pilot kitchens, we love tastings. I just did a vegetarian tasting about 2 months ago at the Civic Theater. It was literally something I didn't understand the food. I didn't understand the ingredients. I didn't understand the spices. And we served 15 to 20 people for free just to see if it would get some legs.
Sure.
And you know, that's really the ultimate experiment.
How do I
is
sign
what
up
the
for this
feedback
test?
is. It's very cool.
I
You
said,
just,
you got 3 fat guys here. We'll try food.
you got to know me personally. It helps to know me personally.
Well, we do now,
so-
Just saying,
We're gonna try something here because I got a text that they want to come on and ask questions, I guess. So we're gonna try this. I don't know how this is gonna work.
Steve's drunk.
He might be.
Hello, David.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
Do you have questions?
Hey,
Are
Steve.
we live?
We are, of course, live.
Okay, I gotta watch what I say then. I understand.
Okay.
Who's all there tonight?
We got Mike, Nick, and we're talking to Tom about his food truck.
Tell Steve I said hi since he can't hear me.
What kind of food do you have, Tom?
We specialize in gourmet grilled cheese sandwiches, Reubens, and we have a fast food menu that we're serving right now.
I am a tremendous fan of food. I love food. Ask David, he can tell you I love it. Ask Mike. Mike could know I like it too.
Steve's like us. He's a fat guy. He loves food and drinks.
Yes.
Feeding people of your type is my business, and business is good.
Well, that's good. You know what? We have had a tremendous, I don't know exactly the right words to use, but over the past 2.5, 3 years, we have such a tremendously poor setup for the restaurants and the food people. And they've lost so much. We've lost so many good restaurants. And my wife and I were just saying just the other night, you know, it's hard to really find a good, normal place to eat. You can go to all the big fancy places. You know, you want to pay $250 for 4 people for a meal, you can get a good meal. But the regular guy, it's hard for them to get a good burger and fries, and it's just all different than it used to be. I guess that's just the way of the world.
Well, and say now, I don't know. I could spend $250 on a food truck. I've seen some of them. Steve, now how often do you go to a food truck down there, Steve?
Now what do you? David didn't tell you I'm a little hard of hearing, did he?
Nick wanted to know how often you go to a food truck down there.
You know what? We have only one food truck down here, and I just don't go to it, not because, and I've heard it's good. I just don't go to it.
Well, isn't that out by third base?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's exactly where it is.
And don't they have tacos?
Oh, yeah.
Nick's a fan right now.
Okay, why doesn't he go there?
The place, whenever it's open, always people there.
Well, yeah,
So,
everybody loves tacos.
Well, I'll tell you what. if you want
Steve's been on with us a couple times. So Steve is he's retired. He's a builder by
Oh,
trade.
How did he
Um,
find you?
So
Just gotta
Steve,
wonder.
Steve is David. Mike, did you play football?
I did not, so
David's old football
was,
coach.
yeah, he was like an
His-
assistant coach when Dave was going through football, and
Okay.
basically probably the closest thing Dave has in his life to a true father figure.
Okay,
He's
So-
never been close to his dad.
okay.
So right when you get the opportunity, you kind of take those opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing
connect,
against you.
No doubt about it.
And he's
So-
one of the greatest people like alive, in my opinion.
And now you just experimented. Now you know what it's like,
Yeah. Sick.
taking calls and answering questions.
Oh my goodness, this is we answer a million questions. We get viewer questions on a constant. I think my phone averages 147 calls a day. And that was, I mean, granted, that was 3 weeks ago when I started counting. I'm busy. So we talked about an exit strategy. I guess, what is your end goal?
It's a really good question. It can pivot week to week, month to month.
Hour to hour at points.
But I am convinced that in 7 years, I'll hit retirement again, and I will have a company that's valued at maybe the same value as my previous company, but it will be with my identity tied to it individually, with a church mission in mind, meaning that not only we were successful, not only did the company have a sales that was suitable to support the business, but it can be sold for 7 times EBITDA, or it could be a factor of 12 or something ridiculous, just because everybody knows us, everybody loves us, and everybody wants to be part of us. And so someone buys it as a income stream because we polished this stone until it was the most brilliant one in the area. And going through the sale of our firstborn, our first company with a business partner, looking back on it, I just think to myself, if we only had thought ahead a little bit more about the end game, it would have been done differently, but I don't think more successfully, just differently.
Sure.
And now I have that hindsight. I can go and say, boy, why at 5 years did we just hire our first employee? Oh, wait, that's when this pivoted. Okay, now when we add people to our team, I now have that hindsight to go, does it make sense to add somebody late in the season or not? Or do we take someone on because it's a high risk but a good reward? Or this person has this skill but not this skill. Let's work on it together and see what comes of it. So not leaving it to magic, but just saying, hey, let's take a chance and see where it takes us with the end game.
Sure.
5 years from now, maybe they're part owner.
Sure. Which is
No
huge.
one could ever visualize that in the previous group.
No, I say, and that's, I look at that as one of my one of my exits. I have a 7-year-old, which isn't very old, but I mean, you said you have kids yourself. Like, life goes very, very quickly.
Sure.
I could see myself, letting her buy me out. Let's say,
Yep.
Doesn't have to happen over
Sure.
a normal 30-year amortization.
Sure.
I don't care. Like, hey, 50, the next 50 years are going to should be 20, so 70, right? Just keep making me payments until I die, and then you get everything in the end, but just make sure I get my money, right?
Yep.
Run the business. And if you choose to sell, I don't care. Like, at that moment, we've already talked about a price, right? Like, hey, this is what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
will she get handed things? Yes. I'm not afraid to admit that,
Yeah,
right?
Well, no, you can keep going. I was just thinking along the lines of mentions his, it's nearing the end of his season. He's not expecting. He wants to close in no less than 2 months. Like, if he's still doing activities in 2 months, he'll cry. And I'm guessing, are these employees like regular enough where, like, while you're closed, they can earn unemployment?
Everybody has another way to get their bread buttered on both sides.
Okay,
all of our employees probably do not count on us for their primary income.
okay,
The first year I took somebody on and promised 32 hours a week, and I was faithful with that. But this is
so this is more of like you have a
this is,
a
yeah,
large
I
group of
draw from
people you
16 to
can hire
24
from, you
people.
can
Yeah,
Wow,
fill
really?
Yeah.
spots from, and they can be like, yeah, I want, you've got something going on for 5 hours, like
Yeah,
this coming
exactly.
Saturday.
yeah.
I'll take that. I'll take one of
Yeah.
those 5
It's
shifts.
still that
whatever.
way. I have some regulars that will probably just dedicate their weekends to us. There's some that don't want to do weekends. They just want to do weekdays, lunch services. And then there's others that want to do the cool concerts, you know.
And I knew, I'm still, I don't talk to him as much anymore because his kids have gotten out of scouts, but somebody I knew when he did more kind of what you said, like the barbecue stuff, but he worked for one of the barbecue areas down in this one, and that was what he did, is on the weekends, he was
Yep.
a full-time employee at,
Yeah.
a couple of different companies, always doing IT related stuff, but on the weekend to make extra money, he was like, I'm gonna go out and, pull the pit, to
Yeah.
this place and,
Yep. Yeah.
do 5 hours of cooking, and then
Probably
sometimes
25% of the business is people have a desire to share their art. 25% of the business is an artist who turns it into a business, and whether they make a ton of money or not, it rains or it doesn't rain, they just love sharing their gift. The other half is 50% of the business of the 100. So that's going to be somebody who's all about the bottom line. They really have to turn 60 units an hour. They need to do that for 4 hours or they're not going out. And then the other one is, I just think it's kind of interesting. 25% of those people may or may not be in the business in 2 years.
So in about 5 years, when my youngest kid is out of high school, do you want to buddy up with a guy who is willing to take like Dutch ovens and cook on Dutch ovens and make like desserts and stuff?
Well, in 5 years, I'll still be filling the void of 7 trucks. So
Is that your goal?
I'm more than happy to meet up with you and be like, hey,
it'll be 8
I
trucks in
want,
7
I'll
years.
make,
or 7
I'll
and
make
8.
some s'more cobbler on these couple of Dutch ovens. I'll make some, other things on these Dutch ovens, and just, you can get rid of the, on the weekend, you can get rid of the, Sam's Club, brownie bites.
There you go, a real dedicated dessert.
Yeah. Now,
I'll bring all my own supply, all my own gear.
Just deliver it ready made.
so you have
I'll make it fresh
bonfires
there.
outside of every truck. Let's say, do you know by chance the success and fail rates of a food truck?
It's got to be similar to a restaurant,
Okay.
which is pretty high.
Right,
I
like,
thought I
that's
heard
crazy.
50%.
Wow.
In certain areas, it can be worse. So yeah, I have watched brands already turn or not come back the next season in my short time. And again, it's probably just a lack of cash. You break down and miss 3 or 4 events, you are in the black until you do that. And then you're red and you never come back. And suddenly your bus driving job or your full-time gig at the office seems a lot more beneficial than this thing.
Sure.
3 or 4 rainy days can break somebody's back if they can't get the cash flow
That's
that covers their expenses, and insurance doesn't stop, rents don't stop. I know all these things don't go away because we have a bad run of terrible weather.
You kind of, I think, mentioned a good point too. Like if you just decide, let's say it's a common event that you go to that, is they'll bring, okay, we're going to bring like 5 different food trucks, and we're going to, assume, you're going to get, 1,000 people in the entire event. So you might get, 200 people or whatever. You drop one weekend on going to that they do it, let's say monthly, and you're like, I don't want to do it this time. All of a sudden they find a food truck that people like, they might say, I don't need you anymore.
Yeah, you use that pathway. So there are trucks that specialize in that, and I would know their trucks by name. Like they're at these 3-day raves or the country western concerts, or they go to MIS.
Yeah.
That's not my jam. My jam is not even curious about that world. That's almost to me concession like,
Yeah.
and I'm just not. That's not.
Yeah,
relevant.
it'd be like doing the state fair circuit or the
Yeah.
county fair circuit.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, the elephant ear guy, right? The French fry guy, and then the cotton
I
candy
do love
guy.
myself an elephant ear.
Oh, it does. Hey, you
The
spoke
rest of it, I
the,
could give it to, because I could get all the other stuff you could get at a county fair or whatever. You know, I could go get a hamburger from McDonald's and fries from Wendy's, and but
I
you
got
just
a
can't.
good punch
An
in the
elephant
gut
ear
for
is
you.
just not the same if it's not at like a fairground.
It's got to be. So the world's largest food truck event was in Ionia this year.
That's where it is.
And,
Yeah.
so there's
I knew it was one
maybe
of the million.
60 trucks or something like that. And you know, there was
Do they
only,
do that with like the free fair or when they do like?
yeah, they actually do on the same grounds behind the,
I just didn't know if they
grandstand.
timed it like. I guess
No,
probably
it's-
not
it's
the free
different,
fair,
different
but maybe
time.
with the when they do that.
no, it
Country
wasn't tied
Bash
to
or
the
whatever.
regular thing. No, it was just a standalone event. 60 trucks, maybe there was 50, but there was only 3 lines for that event. And the elephant ear guy was one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh man, this is killing me.
Yeah.
Watching him, long lines, and me.
Yep.
There it is, truck go. And I'm like, oh yeah, concessions, they're horrible.
Yeah.
It wasn't horrible for him. Killed it.
It's all about the kids. I'm telling you.
Did
Like, what blows my mind is the people that do the damn candied apples.
Mm.
I'm like, who the hell is walking around with their kid, letting them just get caramel and candied apple all up
All
in their
over them.
face? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
but they sell, damn it.
They do.
Like, I think
That's another. I mean, I do
if
love
you think
myself
about
a
it-
caramel apple too.
number one, it's got to be a hot dog truck. It's got to make the most money, right? Or tacos. Or number two,
I was
cotton
gonna say
candy.
tacos probably because you can cook your own hot dog on a grill and it tastes the same as getting them from a truck.
Yeah, but I'm saying profit wise, and then cotton candy.
No,
right?
hang on a second. We were so disappointed they don't have hot dogs on the cruise.
Well, yes, but that wasn't anything other than that was second lunch.
Or
It's like a
third.
hot
Or
dog
third
free zone or
lunch,
something,
yes.
or
Hot dog what?
hot dog free zone or something.
No,
No, so they had the cruise Mike and I went on last year. They had an actual hot dog stand. Basically, they had hot dogs, Polish sausage,
Yeah.
Italian sausage, and it was
Well, it doesn't mean that their little like cafe isn't going to have it or whatever.
right. But this was a dedicated spot.
Yes,
That Mike
we
and I,
did
a
the
couple
red stripe
days-
when we were there.
Yeah,
Just
we
camping
kind of
outside.
gravitated over there, and we get a couple hot dogs or a
Are you
couple
open yet?
sausages.
And again,
We were-
it was probably partly because they weren't doing the dinner buffets.
Yes, I would agree with a lot of
I
that.
think as they're adding buffets for all the meals, some of those other pop-up foods aren't going to be available anymore.
Well, and we made a comment yesterday that we never got buzz.
No,
I was buzzed in Nassau.
well, yes, after Giuliano gave
yes.
us like 5
Free beers, yes. So I think that's wrong because that's the first time we went and got hot dogs because
Okay, I guess
We
the
had to
idea
have
being that on the actual boat,
on the boat we never did. Yes,
we were not, even when we were drinking in Coco K, we never got buzzed.
True.
Yes, when he's just handing us, here, let's have another Kalik Gold, let's have
Yeah.
another, dark one, let's have another.
So do you do like the food truck Fridays?
Yeah, I avoided those the first year because we just didn't have the sales per hour. That would be necessary to be successful in that area. I also thought that I didn't want to be the truck with the long lines and the long waits, and I didn't want to have our brand look like that would be troublesome for them to hire us. So this year I did 2 in a row. One was I subbed for somebody and then I was invited back for the second one. It's literally across the street from my house in our city. And that's where I kind of got the bug. I was like, how do you run out of food? It's a food truck. You had one job.
Right.
Now I'm learning after 2 years,
It's
you're
like-
supposed to run out of food.
Yeah.
That's a food truck business.
So that's
And-
your goal.
So
Yeah.
I
You're not selling
know,
as much as you want if you don't run
no,
out of food
I just
today.
I could write about. It was like a badge of honor to
Right.
go home with ingredients. I'm like, oh, it's
Right.
only a tomato is only good for 3 days.
Yeah.
What?
Well, that's the entire thing when you talk about like, and I mean, I understand like the Reuben one is going to be a lot of, pre-cooked, refrigerator stable meat and things like that. You're not going to have like, raw, beef or pork or whatever it may be. So you're not going to deal with, those you could freeze and stuff like that. But yes, you're talking about, yes, produce is only good for a handful of days once it's purchased. And, cheeses, if you store them right and
But there
well
is
sealed, they're
regulations
good
that
for,
we're just gotta follow. And so when you open up processed cheese, it's certainly got a better shelf life than a brie or a
yeah.
open pepper jack or something like
And
that.
are you a cheese connoisseur now?
Negative.
Say,
Nope. And I actually, I would say that I probably will never get more sophisticated in my taste buds either. There's a certain point where you just go, okay, it's a necessary part of the business, but it's not one that I choose to enhance. I really do like the hideous foods. I mean, pizza is my jam, and barbecue and tacos from probably the dirtiest truck in the world.
You
That's
fit
right.
right in with
know,
us
Mexico
because you know
best
what?
tacos.
Simple food.
Give
Um,
me, I mean, well, I love goat cheese, so that's why I think that goat cheese, grilled cheese you were talking about and feta and stuff like that, but like, I don't like the, really stinky cheeses. I'm not a huge fan of any of the really like weird, like blue cheeses that are just like so strong that you basically feel like you're eating a gym sock when you,
Yeah.
bite into them. But I mean, like, I love like provolone and Munster, and some of those are like my
Yeah.
favorites. And
There's hope. I mean, I do like sharp New York cheddar, which
I
is
love
like one
sharp
of the
New York cheddar
nastiest,
too.
raunchiest smelling cheese in the world. And
Limburger, is that what it was
oh
called?
yeah, it's nasty too.
Yeah.
Yeah, has a bad stink.
Yeah. I got extra credit for eating a piece.
So making a sandwich out of that could be that's when we're like, okay,
Your
time to
goal.
sell it.
They would be able to smell you like
Exactly.
once you got within like 20 feet of the
Not just being cheesy, but being stinky.
Yeah, stinky
Yeah.
cheese. Give him the old stinky cheese. All baseball references. So you bought and started during COVID.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's like,
yeah.
yes, I did.
So I came off a FEMA deployment as a paramedic. I was in New York City for a few weeks and came back and started our season and operated through COVID and then through hypo COVID and now obviously post COVID. And it was an interesting time. But remember it, right? That's when you started the business, incorporated during. 2020.
No, and so it didn't scare you, I guess, during.
No, again, what I have is this drive to take my church mission domestically, not go internationally, not go out and go to Egypt or Africa to spread the word. And so I just thought this is where I'm supposed to be. The business is easy to understand. The barrier of entry to work in it is pretty low. And I had administrative abilities, and I also had the ability to interpret lots of paperwork and drill it down to a policy or procedure. And so taking all that experience, this business is a lot easier to have gotten into and never had any fear or uncertainty or doubt at all.
Good.
And that's probably a good thing. Maybe in the long run, it won't be a good thing, but we'll see.
I mean, you say you never know till the end, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Now you mentioned you have 16 to 20 something employees.
Yep, all part-time.
Between the two trucks.
Yep.
If somebody wants to do this, how do they contact you? How do they apply?
They'd go to our website. Our website is strictly a web page. It's got a static contact us page. All of our employees have come to us by word of mouth, or I knew them and they just wanted to be part of the cool places that we go. But if you go to collarbrasssolutions.com, it's a contact us page. If you reach out to me by social media, Facebook or Instagram, we certainly would make sure that you get onto our team. And just as early as today, I met with somebody, they thought it'd be interesting. And I said, then do a shift.
Yeah.
Do a shift, see what our culture's like, see what our environment's like. If you like it, this is the pay plus tips. And you just sign up for shifts and now you're with us.
There we go.
We don't do a lot of screening. I know that people are going to have different backgrounds and things like that. And I think that that makes it kind of
Is
cool.
there a weight restriction?
Yeah,
He's
you
like-
gotta make
he's
sure
like,
you don't.
I gotta find out if
overbalance
I'm
the
gonna answer
truck
this
in one-
question
in
right.
One
It's gonna
direction.
come up. But you only have about 28 inches.
Yeah. of like your personal
of
space.
the working area.
Yeah.
Because there's equipment on one side and the other side. And I lose a lot of battles.
Yeah.
Because if there's two of me, we're into each other's business.
Yep.
So you would cook and you'd have no help.
That's it, man. You're a cook, and that's what you
would
do.
cook.
Okay.
And in the event of a fire, you would get out first.
Oh no, crap. Okay, so which is no, honestly, that's not who I am as a person, right? I would
Can
literally
we,
throw
since
people
you got
through
all like
windows.
the flat tops and everything, can we throw a add like a breakfast menu into like
So everyone thinks that it's kind of like a restaurant where you can add or remove items. Your
oh
menu.
no, I know.
Yeah, it's fixed.
Yeah.
So I have done pancake breakfast, and that's probably the most fun I've ever had in the back of my own truck. But it was for a private event, and we were doing 32 pancakes every 5 minutes, and that was fun. But yeah,
Fun.
And you might be able to do that, like I said, as you get into like those more like charity type
yeah,
situations.
and it was a
because then
neighborhood
you're not
association,
governed by.
temporary
My-
kitchen license, and I got
I
permission
mean,
to start
because
something up.
My
I
wife's-
do pride myself on being a pretty good eggs your way, type guy.
Oh, like a short order
Oh.
cook, right?
Oh,
When
Mel,
I have
you.
when I have space to do it, I'm like, oh, over easy, gotcha.
So I have to jump on this for a second because he just said Mel, and I know only 3 people here know what the fuck he's talking about.
I'm 34.
You
Let's
know
talk
Mel.
about MASH.
No,
Damn it.
Alice.
Alice.
yeah.
Mel was the cook. Vic Tayback.
From
Yeah.
Alice. What is
Yeah.
Alice?
Alice was a
Server.
sitcom on
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah,
Really?
mainstream.
Yeah.
She was a
had-
waitress
she
in a
had
diner.
Flo.
Mel
Flo
was
said,
the
"Kiss my
cook."
grits."
Never hear the terms? Kiss my
Because my grits have heard that, but like, oh, I've never like
I loved
so
Alice.
many shows, huh?
Yeah.
This surprises me. So, say you're talking
We're
about
not even
pancakes.
talking Alice, the housekeeper from the Brady Bunch.
The Brady Bunch.
Yeah,
right?
no, not her.
Say,
No, in
My-
between.
my wife's grandma was the cook for camp that we were both counselors for, and she did this for years and years. I mean, 60 years of her life type of thing, right? She was the cook, or 50, I don't know. But so then she was getting older, and so I was like, all right, hey, I'll step in. And so like I'm doing pancakes one day, and like I flip, and then I flip, and she's like, you never double flip a pancake, and blow. And I was like,
Oh,
man, like I have had your food, okay? Like you are the most white generic lady. Like, and so I'm getting yelled at about
the
pancakes.
pancake
So like
actually,
now
for the first flip, the pancake actually tells you when it's ready.
it does like
When
the
it starts
bubble,
bubbling,
the
yeah.
bubbles and all that. Yeah, but like
It's 50 dots, I was told.
And then
50 dots. Say, I can see
if
this,
you're
right?
really
Like,
skilled, you got the
when-
long spatula, you can flip like 3 at a
no,
time.
this was. I mean, granted, this thing was great. But right, so I'm on pancake duty and just blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah, and then I'm sitting here ladling out things. And I'm getting yelled at for helping, which is always my favorite to do. Right, like when you volunteer and get yelled at, like
Yeah.
that's when you know you've made it in
Yeah,
life. Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting a tip.
Grilled cheese should be about the same. There should only have to be one flip out of grilled cheese.
No,
if
see,
you're
the
supposed to
problem
do
is, and your grilled cheeses were great. I am just the most picky person you've ever met. In theory,
it.
I
Or
want
you
to
get the
hold, I want
hot
to hold my
presses
grilled
and you
cheese
just hit the.
above the heat. I want it to melt all of my cheese, but I don't want my bread to actually get colored. So
That's weird.
I want one
Microwave bread
like
almost.
right, like how is if
Gross.
there was a way to like have melty like I don't like liquid cheese melt like
Just get some Velveeta and throw it on there.
right, but like
Cheese
I want
whiz.
really melty cheese with white, light, soft,
Yeah.
squishy,
Wonder
nummy
bread.
bread.
I
See,
want
my
that thing
idea- My
toasted.
idea is a
I'll do sourdough, but it has but like I don't want the crusty like normally people want that crunch. I don't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like when I
kind
make
of like a brown, maybe kind of some
Nope.
of the where your beard starts.
Nope.
Built
Nope.
not from the like down, but as you get closer to the base.
if you ask me how I make my
And
Sunday
cheese that when you
breakfast,
pull it apart goes sweet. Like
that's what I
sticks
want. Just
together
like that.
To stretch without the crispiness.
That like but I also do that with my toast and jelly. It's just warm bread and jelly. Let's just be honest about this, okay? I want lightly done. I'll take a little brownness if I have to, but like I don't want that crunch.
You're my brother.
Yeah,
This is exactly how my brother
just
was.
you know,
Yes.
honestly, just give me a PB&J and we'll just call it a breakfast sandwich. But so gosh, we're hitting a
So basically
million
put
questions.
a uncrustable on a frying pan for like 10 seconds aside.
You get it. So where do you store your truck?
I share a kitchen with
trucks.
a barbecue kitchen.
With
It's a catering kitchen that has a second company there, and that's where I park. It's in downtown, and yeah, I have designated parking spots, designated storage, and refrigeration and freezer.
Well, so, and one of the ideas, besides, so of course, me being who I am, I was like, man, I kind of want to do a food truck.
Mhm.
And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to do a food truck. You know what I want to do? I want to I want to hold food trucks. So, what do you think about my business idea? This is a quick pitch. Basically, I want a building that's got like a ghost kitchen, so that way people can get their pre-approval, so they can cater, they can do whatever.
Yeah.
I'll host freezers that will have, you can put your padlock on.
Yeah.
Store all your stuff, and then I also want to have a storage facility to where everybody can just kind of put their food trucks, so that way you have a gated community aspect of things. You drive through, I'm gonna have a drive through, so that way you can go into your freezers, hop everything out. Everybody does this. You have gated little areas of what hey, this is your business, this is your business, it's not all one.
Yeah.
And then you also still have this restaurant, or this kitchen, so that way it passes code for when people are like, hey, yeah, the city has to come see where we actually have our
Yeah.
designated kitchen.
Yeah.
That's what I want to own now, and I think I'm gonna own it in Ottawa County.
So I
Or
think
you can also use it in, you can also do as like a test kitchen. People could be like, I wanna,
Yeah, you could rent out time.
Yeah.
test something. I wanna get rid of tomatoes are out of season, so we're getting rid of the tomato and goat cheese, and we're gonna go with, more of a, winter vegetable or whatever.
Yep, I think it makes sense. And there is a concept kitchen down running the same way, and they'll charge a rent to park and plug in, a price to park, plug in, and have some dry storage, and then park, plug in, some storage, ice access. You know what I mean? You can scale it out. But
Is that in Grand Rapids?
yeah, it's
Really?
south. Yeah, it's in Wyoming.
In Wyoming, even?
In Wyoming.
That's your area, Nick.
The area? Or-
Yeah, Michael in 28th area.
No shit.
Yep, yep.
This is literally around the corner.
Yeah, and
By the firehouse? I mean, it's gotta be. Anyway, you know the name of it? We can say it off there if you want.
yeah, I don't know the name of it.
Okay.
But I explored it in the beginning, thinking, well, if we went all year round, but the price point, you just it's gotta make sense.
100%. That's another
in-
thing. You're not
in
making
food-
money when it's there.
Yeah, in food business, there's not a huge markup. People think that there is naturally, but there isn't.
No.
So then you're stuck with, if your rent's say $1,000, you divide that by the platters, and you're like, okay, how do I get that back?
And that's, I think, the problem with people, right? And David and I have this fight all the time. Is he's like, hey, I want employees to have a higher wage and stuff like that, but just for your truck, I mean, you have the purchase of your truck, right? Which you
Yep.
need to make back.
Someday.
Now you have the maintenance cost and things like that of that truck. As you said, it's $500 just to get a tow. And sure, it's not the employee responsibility, but it's a budget
Yep.
that you have to do.
Yep.
Storage, let's say it's 1,000. I mean, storage is expensive, right? You have to front all the cost of everything. And then, so like you have all the cost ahead of time, and then you start officially making towards money, right? Like
Initial investment.
you're paying X amount per dollar every hour. And then at the end of the day, you officially finally, hey, I'm 5 hours into this 6-hour shift, and I finally get to make my money, right? And you're hoping that you're busy this entire
Yeah,
time.
yeah. The numbers are easy to understand as long as you track them. And just like any other business, it's not that unique. Your operating cost and cost of selling goods, there's going to have to be some justification there.
Sure.
And so we look at, as an industry, you want 40 transactions an hour. 60 is really good. Some trucks can do 75 to 100, depending on their, like an elephant in your truck. I don't think that they have a problem hitting 60 units an hour.
Man, it feels like those lines take forever, and they're gonna do.
They do, but if you think every
But
minute,
one a minute, that's
one's
pretty
going
good.
out, and sometimes 3 go out at once, and so that you
Yeah.
start to figure that out.
You just
If
have
you
to do 60
stopwatched
for
it,
one. Yeah.
Yeah, if you stopwatch it, you just say, okay, well, it's 60, and if the plate costs $8, 8 times 6, okay, that's $480 an hour. Now back up, staff, breakdowns every 400 miles, whatever the numbers would
Sure.
be.
Sure.
And then, food is not marked up as much as it's increasing, so you got to keep track of that stuff too. So I say $100 an hour. People are like, what? Yeah, it's not just a human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the costs are. It's not a human. It's $100 an hour to be somewhere. And if somebody wants you to be there for 8 hours, it costs me $500 to be there.
Mhm.
How do I get to that plus something that will cover the ingredients, cover the unforeseen?
I
No,
think you hit a good point. I mean, your supply costs are going up, like I said, food,
13
all
to
those other kind of
36%.
things, but people aren't always like, oh, we understand that, inflation and gas prices are up, so we're willing to spend 14 instead of 12. They still want to spend 12.
Yeah.
no, I want to spend time.
Butter. I just read an article about butter. Butter is up like 35%, and that's a main ingredient.
I
for
say
us.
it's weird because I honestly believe that because I just bought 2 boxes of butter the other day. And I was pissed, right? Like,
And Martin's no better.
well, I looked at my wife and I was like, we're using some fake shit now. And she's like, no, we have to have real butter. And I was like, no, the F I don't. Like, you know what I need? That's cheap. That says no brand. And it just says the word butter on the box. And I don't care what kind of butter it is, right?
Yeah.
I can't believe it's not butter.
Yeah, but
I don't care.
confirm the idea is certain ones. Well, if
It
they're
literally could say Crisco
if
oil
they're
for all I give a
advertising
shit.
it as
It's the price
butter,
I
it
paid.
has to be butter. So it has to be
Fine.
made from cream. It
Oil?
can't be margarine. I mean, I can't believe it's not butter is trademarked to be a margarine.
It could have said the word oil and I would have been fine because of the cost
It
savings.
is
that-
crazy.
I think I paid $2 a stick. And granted, I use it on my eggs. I mean, granted, I'm a big dude. I use butter on everything. But I get what you're saying. Like, I mean, 35% increase. And that is,
It's,
I mean, if you're not buttering your bread, I'm out. Like, let's say.
You look at it, everything. I mean, it's like I said. I mean, butter is again a product of cows. So if they're using more for just regular like cream or half and half or milk or whatever, that's less than they can use to make butter.
Now, where do
Or
you buy most of
cheese,
your products? Is it all the same spot?
No, I have permission to purchase from 3 sources, 2 major retail stores, and then the local distributor, Gordon's.
Okay.
Yeah, we're working with a produce specialty store, and then also your Cisco's and your Vineyard and things like that. But we have the luxury of, in a tough economy, Gordon's has been very stable. When you look at how unstable the market is, there are times where I can't source certain chips to match up with our menu and stuff like that. But that's just the hardship of the times.
Sure. And I could have swore the chips I had were the Ruffle ones were Meyer brand. Because that's like one of my favorite chips.
You do love Meyer chips.
You know
I
what?
do.
You guys want did you like the red ones?
That's what the ones, yeah.
Sweet barbecue.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're really good.
My favorite chip of all time.
They source out of Gordon's and
Really? Oh,
it's just delicious. That
makes sense.
It's like a cherry
Yeah.
red, but that's a Great Lakes chip. But there's a Great Lakes chip there. There's a blue tortilla. And
Oh, that's right. You did. Yes, you did 3 chips plus the brownies.
Yeah.
I forget because I do love blue tortillas.
Yeah, they're good.
I do.
Real good. So it looks cool, and when you pull the sandwich off, it looks like someone cared about it. And
It was dark.
Well, they deal with a lot of these places. I mean, like you said, you should talk about like the Meyer Ripple chips or whatever. A lot of the same like Meyer in Gordon's, unless they're like, the name like buying the Doritos and Ruffles and stuff like that in a, major large thing. They probably buy from a lot of the same
yeah, somebody's bagging them
companies
for 'em.
and just label them with their name or whatever, because that's how I always learned this. And I learned this a handful of years ago at my job. And it's basically like there are certain things that companies make themselves. And then there are some things that they buy from other companies and just throw their own label on. And Kraft is a good example. Kraft makes their American cheese. You buy Kraft American cheese, that's made in Kraft plants. You buy Kraft Swiss cheese, they bought that from another company and just thrown a Kraft label on it.
Yeah. Co-packing, the magic,
Yeah.
how to get in front of people.
Now, have you thought about putting your stuff into packages and putting it in a vending machine?
Absolutely not.
You
No,
should.
it just seems like a a different pathway that just does not intrigue me. And cheese melts when it wants to,
Mhm.
So, even for the other
and
truck,
it unmelts when it wants to.
could you imagine a Reuben in a spinny wheel? A wheel of death is what we
I
always
would
called
not.
it.
I would not buy it.
Dude,
No.
dude, no. See, the problem
I
is
don't.
people
Well, I mean, I don't.
people
eat
buy
sushi,
chili dogs
but
from those things. Okay.
Have
I
you
would.
seen
I
those
would not
people?
eat gas station.
Yes.
Gas station sushi if I ate sushi.
Nick would.
I've never eaten gas station sushi because I'm scared of that factor.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And like
I'm
I didn't even
shocked.
know I was a sushi snob until so. All right. Why a truck versus a trailer?
Ignorance. I believe the future for our organization will be trailers.
Because you can get any F-150 to pull it.
Well, no, that's not the reason. But maintenance wise and portability. I mean, right now I told you I won't go out more than 60 miles
Sure.
because it's expensive, and towing a trailer, you blow a tire, granted it's going to be a problem, but the math is a lot better for trailers. So I say ignorance. I think we're going to go into that world if my numbers are right. But there's something niche about food trucks, and I had access to these 2 food trucks, and that's why I have 3 food trucks now,
Okay.
is I had access to them. But the trailers are very interesting to me, and if somebody wanted to probe around, I'd say, yeah, get out there and hustle with something that costs you 40K instead of 60 or 70K, and a little easier to repair. It doesn't break down. If it does break down, it's usually something you can work around.
Sure.
I don't know the hardships of a trailer. Maybe someday I'll get into it and go, whoops, back to trucks. I'll learn from my other friends that are in the business, why the trailer, why the things, but it was ignorant.
So now can anyone drive the truck?
Yeah, in our state, we don't have restrictions on anything that's as heavy as a food truck. Can there be exceptions? Sure, but yeah, there's no restrictions. It has height issues, weight issues for small town bridges, and you do not want someone who doesn't know how to use their mirrors driving it. So not everybody drives my trucks. That's actually a higher level of employee. We have 3 or 4 people that can drive our trucks, which is nice because that means that I don't have to do everything.
Sure.
But if they can use mirrors and they've demonstrated success driving something that's at least 20 feet big, this truck's only 28 and the other truck is probably 30-ish. I mean, one's a stick shift, that one's not running. So those would be the barriers for someone to be able to drive it, but there's no law that says you have to have a special license.
Sure. You kind of mentioned, hey, my friends and things like that. So do you have something like a BNI group or like meetups of local food truck
Associations
owners?
would be the best thing
There you go.
you can refer to. There's not a lot of networking. There's not a lot of support to help mentoring and things like that. If you think about it, it's a standalone restaurant for practical purposes for many people in the industry. So they're going to be looking for their own survival, and I get it. It'd be neat if there was, but I mean, you're thinking like a chamber of commerce mentality, but
Yes and no.
it's not there. I really wish that there was camaraderie that was to the point where it's like, I want you and I to work together on projects. You don't see that frequently other than these large food truck events. And that's usually a food truck who's been successful at it, bring in 20 people and they pay through a channel to get into that event.
Would that be something that would interest you in
It
starting up?
probably would be something 5 years from now when people know who I am and, I can show that my company is relevant.
Mhm.
And then you're like, well, okay, all you have to do now is pivot now to coordination instead of, how do you get to each event?
Like you said, like support groups may work better, like multi-state or whatever. Because then, if you're dealing with somebody in like Maryland, they don't consider you a competitor.
Yeah, exactly. But I wish that we would advocate for each other, and I wish that the associations might say, you know what? The city wants to make this rule for food trucks. We ain't doing it.
Well, it's, you know, I
We
mean,
ain't doing it. It's just like ridiculous. They have these all these rules, and it's like suddenly some group has to say, we're not serving in your city anymore. You've made it too difficult. But nobody wants to do that. And
they're gonna chase the money.
I think that might be my place.
Well, it's, you know, I hate,
Somebody who has nothing to lose sort of mentality, and you just go, it's not okay for you to make this too much of a hardship.
Yep.
Your constituents want it, and all you're doing is making it expensive and just not reachable.
you know, I like where your head's going. This is gonna be, it's gonna be amazing. I'm not a member of the Rental Property Owners Association. The RPOA is in Grand Rapids. They're one of the biggest things out there. They're proponents. And you know, I'm been doing a lot of complaining about the government lately because they're doing what you're talking about is, oh, hey, you can't be here at this time, you can't do this, like, and they're just, you know, city inspections are becoming a hassle just as much as an inspection on a food trailer, right? Like you're telling me, hey, I can go to, and let's just throw stupid names out there. I don't know where you're at, but like I can go to Muskegon, right? And get approved where Kent County is ridiculous, but Ottawa County says, hey, this one. So, you know, you have different counties that have different rules and regulations and things like that. And that it's such a pain in the butt and it shouldn't happen. You know, and the government's putting their 2 cents into things that they know nothing about. Let's be honest, right? Nobody in the government owns a food truck, right? Sure, some of them own some real estate. Like, you know, I know a city inspector in a certain town that doesn't own in his own town that he inspects in because he says it's too shitty. Right? Like
The standards are too high.
yeah, and he's like, no, I just don't want. And he's like, I don't want my coworkers to know what I own or whatever. And I was like, yeah, you're full of crap. And he goes, no. He goes, it's so stupid to me. I was like, see, you understand it, but
Yeah,
that's also why we get along.
I love advocacy, and I think it's a big deal for people to come together and
Yep.
and support each other, because the world's tough already.
Yeah.
And so our association has good outreach. In other words, I'm visible because of their presence on the World Wide Web. And there are members on there that do care about each other. But I think if there was some more, not teeth, that's a negative word, but just a little bit more
Pushback.
and then also let's do this together. Let's figure out how to do this together. And so maybe my opinion will change as I learn more about it. But that to me is a big deal when you bring people together of like minds, that you're there to support each other so that you all lift the operation up.
Well, I think you see that in a lot of different businesses too, because I know that we've had people reach out to us about, you know, creating a rage room, and they'll be, let's say, within 2 hours of us, and Dawn's open. She'll tell them, you know, this, first off, this is not easy, it's not cheap, contrary to whatever you've read, and if you want to, I absolutely would consult for you, but you have to know what you're getting into. And we probably had 4 or 5 really interested, and then once they found out what this takes, they're like, yeah, I'm out.
Well, that's, you know,
And we haven't seen really anybody else that's, you
Trying to
know,
compete.
yeah, everybody else is like, you know, cutthroat for it, which, you know, that's fine, you can try that, but
and you'll have that on a constant basis, no matter the business, right?
Yeah.
If somebody thinks it's cheap, that's the thing. Like that's the hard part is if it's cheap business to get into, the wrong people are going to get into it, right? So it's not trying to keep the people out, but you know, it goes the same with real estate. If you buy a $20,000 house, the tenant quality is way different than a $200,000 house. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. It's just statistics are statistics.
It's
for a
just
reason,
reality, yeah.
right? Like, so how often on your trailers do you have inspections?
We are mandated to have 2 per year to maintain our credentials. And so that would happen twice in a season. Our season runs from April to April.
Okay.
So in fact, I have one tomorrow for one truck, and I had one last week for another truck. I choose when that is, which is nice
that is.
So
compared
that
to
way they're
other
not taking you down,
industries.
yeah.
You've invited them into your house,
That's-
and that is really cool. They get to see the best presentation that
Mhm.
you can present to them.
Sure.
And I think that's pretty neat. My brothers and sisters in the other food service business don't. They get
They
don't
walk
get-
in.
Yeah, they just show up.
They show up. Yeah.
Well, that's, you know, I mean, mine is for real estate. It's the same. Like they tell me I get to pick roughly, right?
Mhm.
Like, and back when I was working, hey, I mean, I'd basically take a whole day off just to go show them, 12 units because we're walking through all these, and I'm like, and then if I fail one, right, I have to get that done and then meet up with them again.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is like, you've now taken food off my table, and then you just
Maybe.
took a shit ton of food off my table, right? Like, I'm not. It's not like I'm eating filet every night.
I
So,
think once you get over the initial inspection,
yep,
you're in the club, and I think that's good because it is a very high bar to
sure.
get that initial state inspection out of your way. And then if you maintain it with good faith, that's not too bad. I mean, I would be very surprised if anybody really complains about their relicensing inspections.
I say that I've never really heard anybody that
Yeah, I
complain
don't
too
think
much
they
about
would.
it.
Well, I would guess that, you might not have been happy originally getting turned down by the one county. But-
I went for a fire inspection 4 times,
Wow.
miserably unsuccessful.
Well, I got to imagine now that it worked out kind of the better way because
now
it's as strict as it can be. So, you're good.
Yeah, and so, yeah, now that I'm you're past
You're right.
it feels not as uncomfortable, but yeah, that was not a fun time. Just to feel like you could not please the system. But in the end, we're better.
Let's say we've held you for quite a long time. We've asked you probably 1,000 questions. You just don't know it. Now,
I know the most important question.
what's that?
Because I know we didn't get to all the questions. If we wanted you back, is that a possibility?
I'd love to talk more about this
Okay.
business. You just got to recognize that the container's only half full.
Yep.
And it's only as full as I can make it with my limited experience. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, they can always reach out to me online. They can pass it through the Collar Brass Solutions, send me an instant message or Instagram, Facebook. And then of course, collarbrasssolutions.com. And, that, really could be the way that we serve each other is
Mhm.
that you share information back and forth. And if somebody has, something that didn't get addressed today or wants to get into the playing field, be glad to answer those questions that way, or maybe we extend this sometime again.
Did he just like answer my question? Like,
Yeah, he did.
did you read my brain? Yeah. Hey, tell us about you and where you can find. No,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So, well, and
It's
we-
funny. You asked me if I worked on a food truck for a summer. I'm like, how did he know that? Freak me out.
They say, we told you kind of beforehand, right? Like, we
yeah,
asked-
before we started,
we ask questions that most people won't, and this is how our brains work, right? Because I understand a normal human being, right? This is the question I want to know. This is something that somebody asked me before.
one of the things we were talking about before, we started recording was what are we doing? What's our plan?
Yep.
And to an extent, we kind of have Napoleon's plan. We just kind of show up and see what happens. Because at the end of the day, we're just trying to share knowledge. We went through a whole bunch of investing in real estate stuff, and Nick and I are typically curious people. We want to know what we don't know.
Mhm.
So we will sit there and just bounce off ideas. Hey, who do we want to talk to and find something out about?
Yeah.
And he came up with a food truck thing and threw it out there. And I talked to Tom several times, and every time he's like, how did we get hooked up here? And I'm like, I don't know, Nick, Courtney knew some other Courtney, and Courtney works for you, and there's 2 Courtneys, and I don't know.
You're welcome. So, Tom, really, I appreciate you joining us. Guys, if you wouldn't mind, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your family. I'd like to give a shout out to bourbon barrel. It's a bourbon barrel age, which was great. This cream ale from, we'll post it in the show notes. Lexington Brewing, excuse me.
All right.
That's who it is. My pumpkin ale was absolutely delicious. I can't even say the name of the company.
Yeah.
Let's say, and then Baltimore, Maryland from Duke Law
Duke Law.
Brewing, which actually was really good and disappointing.
Southern tier.
A disappointing Southern tier.
It was
Or
okay.
like- oh, because I had that pumpkin that was so
Yeah.
much greatness too.
This needed more pumpkin in
I
it.
did.
I had from O'Fallon's, which I love, the salted caramel pumpkin beer. And then Pigeon Hill. Of course, I love Pigeon Hill. Mike, what do you got?
That I really liked the Rogue Raspberry Tartlandia. Very good. And the Pastryarchy from Duclaw was good. I think it was just because it's been summer lately. A 9.4% was a little stronger than I'm used to nowadays. So maybe if I'd gotten it later in the winter after I've readapted to those strong beers again. But Nick, I will make sure to save you at least one.
Thank you.
I will
Tom,
hang on. I'll have this up Monday. I'm going to schedule it for Monday while we're gone.
in our next episode.
And then you won't get anything from us until the following week because we'll be recording on the boat.
And the more drunk we get, the more episodes we're gonna do on the boat.
Probably.
I promise you, we're gonna do a lot of episodes on the boat.
What are we
I
going
would
to talk
agree.
about on the boat? Do
Don't
you have
worry
any
about it.
idea?
We're just going to grab people walking by.
How to own a cruise ship and get started doing that.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
See, exactly. Like Tom's excited. He's like,
Nick
wait, how
will
does this?
talk about wins and losses at the casino.
Yep.
How to gamble on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
man, find the right people that way.
Yeah.
Tom, again, tell us a little bit about where people can find you again and what you had to drink.
Yeah, so obviously I enjoyed the Diet Pepsi by the PepsiCo company, and I'm down around 18 ounces, 2 to go. And you can find us at collarbrasssolutions.com. That's Collar Brass Solutions with an S.com. Of course, Instagram at Collar Brass and Facebook at Collar Brass. And then I'm Tom at collarbrasssolutions.com. You see our trucks out there, say hello, mention this podcast, and we'll spoil you some way.
We're going to go find We're going to go find him.
So take
I'm
care.
going to follow you just if you ever get down to this area.
Well, I think that's very possible when we look at how our business will grow. I look forward to taking care of you.
Good.
All right. Thanks again for joining us, everybody. We'll be back with you live in a couple weeks.
You've dialed in to Bucks and Brews. You might hear something you can use, like tips on your cash or tips on the suds. You're gonna want to use the smarts of these stuff, cause they know the brews, and they know the box, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks. So listen up, cause shit's not funny, and save yourself some beer money. Bucks and Brews.
Bucks and
Bucks
Brews.
and Brews.
Bucks and Brews.